Hey everyone, Egman here with another video. Buckle in, another opinionated video. It's just been kind of popular lately with people saying what their thoughts on what the state of the meta is and what they would want to happen to fix it. And I think I've kind of tumbled around a couple things that I've had issue with, but I kind of want to just do a video about two things. This video is going to be my definitive as of April 30th opinion on what the meta is right now, and then also one, I guess, the opinion that there will be a ban and or limit list change in the next month. I will stake that. If there isn't, I'll raffle out an expansion, like one of the Bojack whatever. I'll raffle that out to anyone who I don't know if I can do it like or comment. I'll do another video if that's the case. We'll figure it out. But I'll raffle it out to one of my viewers, and but I strongly think that will happen. And then also what I think will be put on it, or what I guess it's a twofold on that too. What I want to be put on it, and then also what I think some additional options are going to be. So let's get into it. So personally, I think that and before I guess I do that, let me qualify why I feel the way I do for these things. I've been comment, just I've been looking at the meta for the last month. I've compiled results, followed every big event since Set 6 has dropped, and even competed in one of them and placed top in it. So I think I qualify with some opinions on how I feel. I am not in the get good mentality. I think I personally think that Super Shenron is approaching degenerate if it hasn't already. And especially with the current Height of Mastery Victory Strike incarnations, I think that deck is not very healthy for the game. I will say that it is skill based, which is good. It is expensive, which is not good. But I think it doesn't have any hard counters in the meta. And I think something that I feel like a lot of people get hung up on is that when someone says that a deck's really good, they can say, "Oh, I can beat that deck," and that's all fine and dandy. But I think a lot of people get lost on the effect of, "Okay, yes, you can beat this deck. However, can you also beat the other decks in the meta, right?" And that's a big thing. You can't just beat one deck in the meta and then just be fine in a tournament. You have to be in a situation where essentially you have to have a positive matchup against the breadth of the field, which is really hard. And I think with all the current meta right now, I think Super Shenron Victory Strike is positive against any matchup. There are no doubt counters to the deck, and they do exist. And a Victory Strike deck can only be so consistent at the same time. But the fact that you can go into a different win condition with your side without even switching that many cards, to be honest. I think like being able to side in like a more storm variant, it can be really powerful, and it just makes it so I don't think there's a deck that exists that can have a good matchup against the Victory Strike variant and the Storm variant at the same time. That's my big thesis about all this. I think that's very powerful. I don't think anyone who plays those variants are like bad or like just like got victory, won for free or anything. That it's still very skill intensive to play, but I think it's to a point where it's not healthy. And even just the Storm variant of Super Shenron, I've never seen people react to Storm in a good way. It's a deck that just wins, and it goes back to just like the the Bardock card and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's very it's just very powerful, and I think I would like some sort of change in some regard, and so lastly, I will put away some of my bias. So one bias is that I want to go to Indie, and I don't want to play Super Shenron in its current iteration, so that's part of the reason. But and two, I did lose to Anthony Hernandez at Dallas, and so I don't want this to be a situation where it's like, oh, I lost against the deck, let's ban the deck because I don't want to lose against it again. But I think it's something that is just I don't think a lot of people are liking, and I think it's a bad direction for the game. And additionally, something else I've seen other people say, this is bragging, but there's only one Super Shenron in the top 4 of Dallas, and it was literally because I knocked the other two out. And the other two variants were more storm-based, which my deck was built around, and they still went to game 3. It wasn't like I just 2-0'd them. It was a deck that I had to still grind against, even though I was built against it, right? And so those weren't free wins in any regard. And then if I lost round 1, top 8, what would have been my stream match would have been 2 Super Shenrons playing, and so there would have been 2 in top 8 or top 4. And if I lost top 8, then Daehan would have gone once again two Super Shenrons in the top 4. So I think that's that's a little bit of a fallacy of how many, like, 3 topped and only 1 was in the top 4. But I think this was a bit of an anomaly in those statistics. But that's just my opinion. So so let's just jump into it. So I wanted to, and I guess just to kind of once again prove, like, I've done all these events. I've looked at all these deck lists for the last month. It's been bordering obsessive, I guess, making this content. So, but I feel like I have a pretty good mind on what's popular and what can be degenerate in that regard. And then also just the last 3 decks that have won big events. We've got this is, I think, Marcus's, right? Yeah, Marcus, who got first in San Diego. This is Anthony, who got first at Dallas, and then we also have Eric Hill, who placed first in just a top cut event. There's 60 people, right? Nothing to, like, that's a pretty big regional event too. So and he got first with a Super Shenron deck as well. So that's something that I've noticed, and ever since set 6 came out, it was always in the top 4, which isn't like a really good contention. Looking at like other decks, we've got what Timothy Lee played, Skillless. So like Skillless has always been top 4 too. I think that's more of just how many people are playing Skillless. And the reason I guess I treat Skillless differently is because I feel like the builds are more spread out. It's not cookie cutter as much, and in the very least, there's more interaction between players. It's a really strong mid-range deck, and they can get a lot of advantage, so it can feel like you're getting, like, there's nothing you can do, but I definitely would argue there's more counterplay in this deck, and there are ways to beat Skillless without having to specifically make a deck around it. So that's my contention for that. And yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it for just what my thoughts are in the meta. I think Super Shenron, something needs to happen to, in the very least, the Height of Mastery package. I'm still biased in the sense of I haven't liked Height of Mastery, like Son Goku Path of Greatness to Height of Mastery on turn 4. I feels very degenerate. Like even with these, like the yellow Broly decks that do it, being able to tap out your opponent on turn, like completely tap out your opponent on turn 3, I think is bad. And I guess I'm a bit of a I can't remember, not the word fraud, but hypocrite, because yeah, I played the package when I was in Dallas, but it's so good, and I think it's something that needs to be adjusted as well, and maybe in tandem of all this. But it just doesn't feel good. Just being able to tap out and then have 2, like being able to do 6 damage. If you're yellow Broly, you can do 9 damage, and or just go in Victory Strike, which is just, does infinite damage, right? And being tapped out, and that just doesn't seem fair. Being able to tap your opponent out and have a Victory Strike on turn 4, like, that's like having one or the other is fine, but both is bordering oppressive. So anyways, those are my opinions on that, and I want to talk about cards, how what I would like to see changed and how I think they are going to change. A big difference there. So for Super Shenron, I don't think this is a tough point for me, because I don't think this deck teeters on being either really cool or really oppressive. A lot of card games struggle with the idea of a take another turn card. If you can get it off consistently, it feels bad for the other player 100% of the time. Especially since, like, in being able to tap out with Height of Mastery and being able to take 2 turns of a tapped out opponent is just not fair, and in my opinion. But so I think, but I don't think. In general, I don't think we should do erratas anymore. I think the fact that we've opened the door to banning and limiting cards, I think that's the way to go from now on, unless it's something drastic. But that's going to be the basis of this. I don't think errating would be the worst thing, but I don't think it's going to happen, and it's not what I would want to happen. So So Super Shenron, I don't think this card should be banned. I think the cards enabling it should be banned, but this could just if this card does end up getting banned, I wouldn't be very upset about it. I think like I don't know, like you don't want to like ban a leader. Like leaders are just kind of like you don't want those to get banned at all, but that's just something there. But I think if you weren't able to get your second turn on turn 3 or 4 consistently like you are, this deck would be not as good. And that was the big thing when this card first was released. So like, oh yeah, okay, if you can survive the turn 5 or 6, this is good to get all the cards in your drop. But being able to turbo this out is not very healthy in my opinion. So once again, either banned or something happens to it, I'd be happy with either. I think they're going to keep this card around and ban the cards around it. Balma. Ooh, this is another tricky one. I don't. So this is like the most obvious card to enable Super Shenron in a lot of cases. I don't think. So this card was obviously not broken when it was released, and then just happened to have something that enabled it in the future. So I don't think this card is bad. I don't think it's at the time it definitely wasn't bad card design too, but I think it was a design window they kind of left open and then kind of snuck up against them. I don't think this card needs to be banned, but if other decks were playing this card regularly, this card would definitely be hit, and I don't think it's in that case at all. But just being able to get a body out for free and draw a card with Chow's Wish combined. I think that's kind of a degenerate thing, and then also fill up your drop area and that kind of stuff. But I don't think they're going to touch this card. If they do, I don't think they'll ban it. So they either ban it or they don't, I guess, is my opinion. I think banning it is the surface level analysis of what's wrong with Super Shenron. But if they dig deeper into it, I think they will realize that this card sure does enable it, but I don't think it's the main cause of it. So I personally don't think anything will happen to Balma, but I would not be surprised if they just outright ban it, especially if they don't ban Super Shenron. Next up, the big boy, Chow's Wish. So this is probably the most debated card about this whole thing, and mostly because this card is used in other decks, and that's an issue because you want for a lot of decks, Chow's Wish is what makes them playable in a lot of ways. It enables, brings a deck from a concept to like actually being able to work out in a lot of cases. And on the flip side, though, a lot of the decks that it does enable are kind of like these one-shot combos that I don't think, which kind of gets hindered by not bad card design, but a design space that allows for degenerate stuff. So the big thing is I don't think. So there are two things that people are saying is like one, ban or limit it, are also change the way that desires work. I don't think they're going to change how desires will function, but I don't think it's a bad idea, especially when you look at other decks that are around right now. I would say Super Shenron is really the only one that consistently plays more than one desire in a turn, and that can be really poignant to say, oh, okay, what's the Super Shenron do? It plays Child's Wish a lot of time to cycle stuff. Oh, and then just make it so desires don't only happen once, and the other decks will be fine. And so I think that's fine. I don't think it's going to happen. What I think would be, I think limiting this card to 1 or 2 would make more sense. Just the fact that a lot of the decks that go off, you only need to have 1 or 2, and you already have cards to search. This card's searchable in a couple ways as well. And even like you can just put in your drop and you get back for free when awakening with most Wish leaders too. So I can see that. I don't think it's going to be banned. It might be there might be a difference in game mechanics with desire, and but I think limiting this to 1 or even 2. They haven't limited a card to 2 before, and I don't know if they will. But the fact that this card starts a lot of turn 3 combos, I think is a telling sign. And a lot of this kind of reminds me of what they've done to Cell, and kind of putting pieces of what they've done before kind of helps us determine what they will do in the future. And they put Cell to 1, the 3-drop Cell to 1, just because it was enabling a lot of kind of degenerate turn 3 plays. And I think Child's Wish is the same thing. It can just it does enable a lot of degenerate turn 3 plays, and so limiting it to 1 as kind of like something that can happen. And since this card's searchable, just like Cell, it's not as searchable as Cell, but it is something you can search for. I think that's a really big thing. So that's what I think is going to happen to Child's Wish. Limit it to 1 or 2, and maybe it probably won't get banned. And maybe they'll do the desire thing, but I don't think that's going to happen. Next, the big boy, the card I just like made a video about like 2 days ago. I think this card needs to go to 1. I'm just going to straight up say it. It's degenerate enough. It's good enough for it. It's rare enough for it too. The fact that this card was like out for like a month in like a really limited amount. I think that's why the prices are so high for this guy. I think this card running around at 4 in general is just a degenerate thing. I think there will be a lot of decks that just abuse this, and once again, I used it, and it's really what I think, because it felt really degenerate at times. But yeah, it's just a really good card. Even if it's at 1, this deck is still really super playable. You can just use like Successor of Hope for free to find it. You can use Planet Vegeta to find it. You can use Universe 7 Representative to find it. You can use one of like those 2 1-drop Gokus to find it. Don't use those. But yeah, it just seems like this card just kind of started a lot of trouble, and I would be good with this to be at 1 or to be at none, to be honest. So yeah, I think they're gonna hit this card, and I'd be surprised if they didn't in any way. And I would be okay with it being at 0 as well, but I think being at 1 is fine. So that's that. Next up, Dragon Radar. A really touchy subject for me too. I'm not really sure. When this card first came out, I thought it was bad because it was just cloggy. It's like, oh, I hate extra cards. Like, sure, you draw 2, but then like you can't combo with it. What's the point? And but I think this card kind of enables some degenerate stuff. If they make desires, you can only play them once per turn. This card will be fine. If they don't do anything to Child's Wish, this card will not be fine. I don't think this card needs to be in the crossfire. I think it's a good card. It's a great way for a deck that gains a lot of advantage to gain even more advantage, but I don't think this card's broken. Also, I don't know if this will affect it at all, but it is getting reprinted too, so that might be like their idea of like, oh, we don't have to care about this card. We don't think it's a problem, and I think it's fine. I think it's an okay card, and if they put Child's Wish to 1, they're definitely going to keep this at 4, because you don't want to, like, just for some semblance of being able to, use your desires again. But I think this card's fine. It's hinging on it, but I don't think it's a bad idea. So I think it's going to keep at 4, and I don't think I'd be somewhat surprised if they put it at 1, and if they banned it. I don't think they're going to ban this card. And I guess this is kind of like an Eggman extra. People have been arguing about Battering Laser for a while, and I think it's to a point where I really think this card should be at 1. To be honest, like, you only need to have 1 to end the game. Like, if you just have not Victory Strike. I guess Victory Strike against Mafuba, but like in a lot of ways, like if you just play one of these guys, you win. And so it comes down to, if you have it, which I think is a lot more fair than just stacking 2 or 3 in your deck and then being like, aha, I drew it because I drew half my deck. But I think this card, if we're switching cards to the list already, I think this card deserves to be at 1. I think it's good enough that I think people still play it at 1, which is good. But I also think that it kind of reminds me of like a legendary flute, in the sense of like, oh, it's just strictly good, and I think, and it just kind of enables some degenerate stuff. And so I think this being at 1 would be fine. If they don't touch it, that's probably what's going to happen. But this is a wish list, right? This is my opinion and all that stuff. So there's that. And so just kind of wrapping up in general, my big overall wish, see what I did there, is that I think a lot can be done by just putting Path to Greatness to 1 and putting Child's Wish to 1 as well. I think that'll fix a lot of what's going on in a lot of ways. I think it will still enable some decks, like, Path to Greatness, Height of Mastery, Victory Strike is still viable. You just have, it's less consistent, which makes it good for the meta. And then also, I think Child's Wish is, at first, it enabled Shenron decks when they didn't have a lot of support, and people didn't have like a lot of ways to do combo stuff, but now we're in this time where like there's a lot of cards that this card just plays plays nice with a little bit too much, and so I think something needs to happen to this card as well. So that's pretty much it. You guys have probably written novels to me down in the comments below about what you think is fair and everything, and I'd love to read it and have a discussion with you. So have it on that. And once again, this is just my opinion. My opinion can be wrong, I guess, but I think I don't think this is complaining in any sense. I think a lot of what my opinions are founded on facts, right? That's how people have opinions. You generate data, you see what with your eyes, and then you say what you see, and this is what I see. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.